Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda McKee. Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda McKee. I am the head of the Climate Action Enhancement Package with the NDC Partnership. Apologies for the delay in getting started this morning. We were just waiting for a few last participants to join. Today's information session is targeted at implementing partners to provide you with information on round 2 of CAEP, specifically some of the things that have changed from round 1 and how you can or how you will be invited to respond to requests for support that countries will submit. So in today's webinar, I am going to start by just giving you a quick update on the NDC partnership, how things have changed over the last couple of months in terms of our membership. I'll give you an overview of CAEP, including what round 2 will look like, information on how implementing partners will be able to provide support, some of the important dates in our timeline, and I'll wrap up with an overview of what we see as some of the keys to success through CAEP and links to some important resources. So to give you a quick overview on where the NDC partnership is today, we've grown quite a lot over the summer months since round 1 of CAEP was initially launched. We now have over 100 country members, developed and developing countries. When we launched CAEP initially, I think we were at 96 or 97 country members. So quite a few countries have joined since we began this process. In addition, we've grown our institutional members as well. We're now at 32 institutional members, and our associate members are now at 19. So the partnership's grown substantially. We have over 150 members total. Similarly, just to remind you, this map is showing you the countries where we are actively engaged. So this is where we're actively engaged through the country engagement process. In addition to this, we're also engaged in a number of other countries through CAEP, through round 1 of CAEP. Coincidentally, through CAEP, we are supporting 50 countries as well. We had 50 countries submit eligible requests for support through round 1. Those 50 countries don't overlap 100% with those countries we're engaged in through the country engagement process. I believe there are about 36 countries that overlap. So 36 of the countries on the map here are countries where we are engaged through CAEP, and there are an additional 14 that aren't shown on this map. So to jump into CAEP, I wanted to just quickly remind everyone and provide an overview of the rationale for why CAEP was set up, particularly for some of our new members that might be joining us on the call today. So as we know, climate change is one of the greatest challenges that we'll face in our lifetime. And the severity of the climate change challenges that we're presented with have been echoed through a number of findings and reports that came out over the last years, including the 1.5 IPCC report, the announcement that we've reached record CO2 levels earlier this year, as well as through the IPBES report that shows how drastically climate change is affecting everyone's life on the planet. So the challenge is clear. But at the same time, we are also seeing a lot of momentum for change. Youth networks are mobilizing globally and demanding action. We've seen climate finance hitting record highs. Renewable energy is now the cheapest energy option compared to a lot of conventional energy sources. We also had the UN Secretary General's Climate Action Summit last month, which again drew together a lot of momentum at the political level. So at the heart of the Paris Agreement are nationally determined contributions, or NDCs. And these drive the ambition mechanism that will allow the collective effort by all countries to achieve as soon as possible the ultimate goals of the Paris Agreement. The first critical milestone under this cycle is in the year 2020, when countries will be or are invited to submit updated NDCs. This is an important process, or an important step in the process, as countries are invited to periodically revise or review and revise their NDCs to ensure that they're ratcheting up ambition to ultimately meet the goals of the Paris Agreement. And so this coming year is a critical one, as it presents an opportunity for countries to really think about what it is that they're doing on climate action, how they can update, revise their NDC to be more ambitious and to take on greater commitments. So the Climate Action Enhancement Package, or CAEP, was really developed to respond to this critical opportunity over the next year. It's a new offering of the NDC Partnership designed to deliver targeted, fast-track support to countries to enable them to enhance the quality and increase the ambition of their NDCs, really with the goal of catalyzing transformational change towards resilient, sustainable, and low-emission development. So through the CAEP, we are really looking to give countries clear and coherent signals that resources will be made available for them if they wish to raise the level of ambition in their NDCs. And so that's the ultimate aim behind CAEP. The primary objective of CAEP is to assist countries to enhance their NDCs, including by raising ambition as part of the Paris Agreement's NDC update process, allowing countries to submit updated NDCs to the UNFCCC by 2020. The way that we've operated CAEP is through rounds. So rounds where we invite countries to submit requests for support and invite implementing partners to respond to these. So round one opened over the summer months, and it closed on the 8th of August. So the 8th of August was the deadline for countries to submit their requests for support. We circulated those requests to implementing partners for their response, and currently we are finalizing the matching of that support, working with implementing partners and countries to develop detailed terms of reference on the support that will be provided. Through round one, we are supporting 50 countries. So 50 countries were deemed eligible to receive support, and we were able to match all of those countries with implementing partners in order to provide not all of the support that was requested, but a large share of the support that was requested. Round two is currently open for applications. So it opened earlier this month, and the deadline for countries to submit their request for support is the 15th of November. And so the rest of this webinar today, I'm going to talk through some of the details on round two to clarify how implementing partners can engage through it. One thing I want to clarify or state up front, through round two, we're really focusing on this objective of helping countries to enhance their NDCs. So for those of you who participated in round one of CAEP, you'll remember that we had two objectives. Objective one was around enhancing NDCs, and objective two was around implementing NDCs. For round one, for round two, we have eliminated objective two on implementation and are focusing exclusively on objective one, which is helping countries to enhance their NDCs. We really see CAEP as an opportunity for countries to ramp up their ambition. So I just wanted to take a moment to quickly flag what we've seen through round one, some of the ways that countries are thinking about this, some of the types of support that they've been requesting. Countries, through their request for support, focused on topics like updating their targets. This includes both mitigation and adaptation, but the types of activities that countries requested support on were around developing fuller economic and technical analysis to enable them to set bolder targets with confidence. We also saw countries submitting requests for support looking at broadening the scope of their NDC by adding new sectors or new responsibilities within existing sectors. And so, as you will know, many NDCs developed in the first generation included targets for just a few well-understood sectors. And so countries are seeing this NDC update period as an opportunity for them to look into additional sectors for where there might be options to pull in additional mitigation and adaptation opportunities. We see countries requesting support around data, particularly how they can use improved data and develop improved MRV systems. This is important to enable governments to make informed decisions, to take more effective action, but also to help them to better measure and track progress. And so countries are requesting support across all of these elements. We also have seen quite a large number of requests looking at activities to help countries to engage with different ministries or with different parts of society, to include a whole of society approach. Involving relevant ministries and stakeholders is something that takes time, it takes resources, but it's also vital in giving everyone a stake in the successful implementation of the NDC. It's also a critical step in terms of getting input and buy-in from stakeholders as the revised NDC is being developed and socialized. Lastly, or the last kind of broad category that we've seen countries request support on is around embedding the NDC in long-term strategies and plans, and particularly in the process to develop and update those long-term strategies and plans. And so we're seeing countries using long-term visions, either from sectoral plans or from long-term climate scenarios, using that as a tool as they prepare and update their enhanced NDC, but also vice versa. We're seeing countries see how their NDC can be effectively translated into long-term strategies. So this is some of the support that we're seeing countries request here. The last thing I wanted to flag in terms of the content is the importance, and this is something that we stressed with countries and will continue to do so through round two, but the importance of looking at where there are opportunities to build on and collaborate with the existing work that's already taking place through the NDC partnership, particularly through our country engagement strategy. And so really ensuring that the CAEP process is not seen as something completely distinct from the partnership plan process, but instead thinking about how this can be used as an opportunity to build on the partnership plan work that's already ongoing in a country. So the way that CAEP will be delivered through round two is identical to what we've done through round one. Support is really delivered through our members by both leveraging our members' resources, whether that's through existing or new resources that you might have, but also through the Technical Assistance Fund that we have set up. So as a reminder, the Technical Assistance Fund is a pooled funding mechanism with contributions from multiple development partners to allocate resources to our institutional and associate members who might have the technical expertise to respond to countries' requests for support. but might not necessarily have the resources available to quickly pick this work up. So the Technical Assistance Fund is meant to support them there. As a reminder, countries will not receive financial support directly from the NDC Partnership. Instead, all of the support is really delivered through our implementing partners through the technical assistance that they provide. So looking specifically at how implementing partners will engage through the CAEP process. I mentioned that the deadline for countries to submit their request for support under round 2 is the 15th of November. At that point, the support unit will be reviewing all of the responses received and evaluating them to ensure that they meet eligibility criteria, that they're clear. We will be getting back to countries if we have questions on their request for support or need additional information. Once we have all of that finalized, we will be circulating to implementing partners the complete list of eligible requests for support. At that point, we'll be inviting implementing partners to respond, indicating which activities you're interested in supporting and how you intend to support them or how you intend to provide that support. So through CAEP, there are 4 options for responding to these requests for support. And this is in terms of where the resources and the financial support would come from. Option 1 is where implementing partners respond with existing resources that they have. So resources that you have through your existing NDC programs or facilities, resources that you've managed to raise to respond to this type of activities. Option 2 is where implementing partners have some resources available, but are looking to complement this with resources from the CAEP Technical Assistance Fund. So this is a co-financing model where you would be requesting support from the Technical Assistance Fund. Option 3 is where implementing partners are requesting full financing from the Technical Assistance Fund. So 100% of the financial resources needed to carry out the activities would be provided through TAF. And then the 4th option that I just want to raise here so that everyone is aware is when no implementing partner responds to an activity, there is an option for the support unit to step in and provide support as well, utilizing technical assistance funds. This option 4 will be used primarily in cases where countries may have received no or very little indication of support from partners, or where countries have identified activities as being critical, but no partner has offered to support them. In these instances, the support unit will look at stepping in to fill gaps if necessary. So as you are responding to the request for support that countries submit, we will be evaluating those responses against our internal CAEP criteria. This criteria is especially important if you are requesting support through TAF. You'll need to demonstrate these things in order to be eligible to receive the support. But in addition to that, if you are providing support through option 1, we will still be looking critically at the support that you're offering to ensure not just that it responds to the country's request, but that it's appropriate. This will also come into play if there are multiple partners responding to requests for support through option 1, and we need to prioritize or balance the support that's being offered. So the criteria that we'll be applying, and this is the same criteria that we applied in round 2. The first one is membership. So in order for an institution to receive technical assistance funds, they do need to be a member of the NDC Partnership. The second criterion is around previous experience. And so we are asking implementing partners to demonstrate that they have previous experience or expertise in carrying out the types of activities that countries are requesting support for. The third criterion is on demonstrating that you have either an in-country presence or experience working in the country. This criteria is particularly important in terms of ensuring that we are using the support to actually help build up capacity in countries. We want to avoid a situation similar to what we saw in a number of countries through the first generation of NDC development, where a lot of the support was provided by international consultancies through fly-in, fly-out consultants who came in and did the work, but didn't necessarily ground it in the national context. And so it is very important through the support that you're considering how this fits in to the country structure, that you have country offices or country presence that you can draw on, or particular experience or expertise working in that country that you can draw on to ensure that you are working to build up national capacity. The fourth criterion is around speed. This is critical, especially for round 2, as the entire intention of CAEP is to provide countries with support that feeds into the updating of their NDC in 2020. So we're working against very strict timelines from the UNFCCC in terms of submitting updated NDCs by the end of next year. And so the support that countries need must be provided to them in time for it to be useful and feed into this ultimate NDC update process. And so it's critical that any support that you are offering fits within that, and that you'll be ready to quickly deploy this support. In the documents and the templates that we circulate to you, we won't be asking you to demonstrate the speed, but it is an explicit assumption that by completing and by responding to any countries, that you are agreeing to deliver this support quickly. And then the last criteria, which isn't something for partners to demonstrate, but just for you to be aware of, is that country approval is an important part of this process. So all support that's being offered by implementing partners will ultimately need to be approved by countries before we move forward with implementation. So just in terms of the process and how this will work. So I mentioned that the 15th of November is the deadline for countries to submit their requests for support. We will be circulating eligible requests to implementing partners on the 6th of December and inviting you to respond to those. So respond to which activities you would like to support and indicate where you would be looking to access technical assistance funds. The deadline for implementing partners to get back to us with those responses is the 20th of January. So we've purposely given quite a lot more time than in round 1, bearing in mind that over that period is COP25, as well as the holiday period and New Year's. And so we've tried to give you as much time as possible to enable you to coordinate with country offices where needed. That being said, because we are giving more time to implementing partners to respond, it will be very important and critical to the overall timelines that these are strictly adhered to. And as we move into the next steps after your responses are submitted, once we start working with countries and developing terms of reference, it will be critical that that work takes place quickly so that we can get this support deployed as rapidly as possible to ensure that it can appropriately feed into countries' NDC updating efforts. Once we receive your responses to countries' requests for support, we will map them to the different countries where TAF resources are involved or where multiple partners have responded to the same activity. We will look at our eligibility criteria. We will look at our prioritization criteria as well to determine which partner should be mapped to which activity. This will then be circulated to governments for their approval, at which point we would then invite implementing partners together with the government to develop a detailed terms of reference to clearly lay out the technical assistance that countries will receive through the CAEP process. One note in terms of how this prioritization effort will work. Earlier, I laid out the options for how implementing partners can respond, options 1 through 4. We will be prioritizing responses that come through option 1. So if a partner responds to an activity through option 1, through their own resources, we will not be considering responses where requests for technical assistance funds have been made. This is important mainly because through CAEP, we're really looking to leverage these two sources of funding, and we're looking for the technical assistance fund to be reserved for those cases where partners really need the resources or where no other partners are responding to activities. And so if a partner is responding with their own resources through option 1, that response will be given priority. So I would encourage you as you're thinking about how you structure your responses, if you are considering responding through option 1 and have flexibility on which countries you might apply option 1 and which countries you might apply TAF resources, please bear in mind that particularly for countries where there might be a lot of interest, where a lot of partners might be interested in engaging there, the selection process will be quite competitive, and very likely partners who are offering support through option 1 will be selected to carry out that work. So just quickly to recap the key dates for round 2, the official launch it took place at pre-COP on the 9th of October. Countries actually were provided access to the online form a week prior to that. So they've had since the beginning of October to start working on their requests for support. The deadline for countries to submit those requests for support is the 15th of November. On the 6th of December, we will be circulating to implementing partners all of the eligible requests for support that we receive for you to review and respond to. And we will be asking implementing partners to get back to us with their confirmed responses of where they would like to provide support by the 20th of January. This information is really more relevant for countries, but I wanted to present it here as well, just so that you understand specifically what the process looks like. Countries can apply for support, and actually the only way to apply for support is through the online application form found on our website, and the URL is shown on the slide here. All developing country members of the NDC Partnership are invited to apply, but for round 2, support will be prioritized for countries that did not apply in round 1. So this is particularly relevant for TAF resources. So we will be prioritizing TAF resources for new countries, so countries that are not receiving support already through CAEP. But we would encourage partners who are responding with their own resources to also keep this in mind. And we would encourage you to look first at supporting new countries before looking to apply those resources to existing countries that receive support through round 1. The intention of this is that we want to ensure we can support as many countries as possible through this process. And when it comes to TAF resources, it's also a reflection of the reality that the resources are limited. And so we will need to make prioritization decisions. Only one application can be submitted per country. We've circulated account details, including a username and password, to all of the NDC Partnership focal points, inviting them to log into our website to start to work on their applications. We are requesting countries that the application be endorsed by the NDC Partnership focal point ministries. So in particular, we're asking for endorsement from the 2 ministries where focal points are based. This includes the Ministry of Environment or Climate Change, as well as the Ministry of Planning or Finance. And this is important to ensure that both of those ministries have been consulted on this process and are aware of and kind of feeding into the support that's being requested through CAEP. In terms of some of the technical details on the applications themselves, through round 2, we have simplified it quite a bit. There were a couple of reasons for this, and I'll get into those in just a second. So just to walk you through what the simplified process looks like, we are asking countries to prioritize the activities that they would like supported. As such, we are limiting the number of activities that countries can request support for to 7 activities total. So the intention is that those will be the priority activities that countries would like supported. These activities should also be structured such that they can be supported and completed by November 2020, ideally. And so this is really to ensure that the activities can be completed in time to feed into the NDC updating process for the country. We've also indicated to countries a suggested budget for their overall request for support, which is a maximum of $250,000. Again, this we feel is in line with kind of the size of the application that we're requesting countries to submit and the timeline, so budgets that are achievable in this amount of time. This is also a reflection of the more limited TAF resources that we have available for round 2. And so we do want to set expectations clearly so that we can accurately, appropriately respond to as many country requests as possible. A few of the reasons that we've simplified this, I mentioned one just now in terms of limited TAF resources. So a lot of these changes are to reflect that. The second, I think, big reason for this change is to alleviate some of the burden in terms of putting together applications and reviewing applications. In round 2, there was no limit on activities. There were buckets, and countries were invited to fill in activities for each of those buckets. This led to very large applications that often were not prioritized, and so it was difficult for implementing partners to understand what the country critically needed support on. So through round 2, we're trying to clarify that for you, so that the activities you're being presented with are those priorities. And also by limiting the number of activities, this will also limit the review that you'll have to do in going through those eligible requests for support and understanding where it is that you might be able to respond. So we're hoping that this will be a much more manageable process. That together with the extended timeline, we hope that this will be possible for all partners. And the last thing to flag here, I mentioned earlier, is that round 2 is focused exclusively on NDC enhancement. And so this is what was referred to as Objective 1 under round 1. Requests for support looking at NDC implementation are not being accepted through round 2. This is what was referred to as Objective 2 previously. So the very last thing to flag are just some of our keys to success that we've been communicating to countries. We would welcome you to talk with countries, to help them think about how they might put together a request for support through CAEP. Ultimately, countries are the ones that need to submit those requests. And it's important to flag as well that countries are not able, through their request, to request an implementing partner that they would like to work with. The matching of implementing partner to country is done through our competitive process, through reviewing the requests for support, through reviewing the responses and matching those based on criteria, based on cost. But still, we would encourage you to use your in-country networks to encourage countries to apply and to help them apply. So some of the things to keep in mind when countries are putting together requests for support is to prioritize the activities that they're looking for support on, and to be specific, to be as specific as possible, to ensure that implementing partners understand what it is that they're looking for and can respond. It's also critical to consult with and get buy-in from key stakeholders. So whether that's different ministries, sectoral ministries, or different stakeholders that would need to be engaged in the implementation of these activities. We encourage countries to think about how they can use the CAEP process, the CAEP support, to further move along planning and development priorities. So how can the support align with different priorities that you have? We also encourage countries to think about how this support could be used to address some of the activities that have been harder to obtain support for in the past. One of the unique things about CAEP is that partners are coming with resources readily available to respond. In addition, we have the Technical Assistance Fund. And so the resource constraints are quite low here. And so countries should think about this as an opportunity to really move forward some of those trickier activities. We also encourage countries to think about how they can use this opportunity to address the challenges that they might have had in the first round of NDC preparation and implementation. And lastly, and most importantly, we should be encouraging countries to really think about CAEP as an opportunity, how they can leverage this to really raise the ambition of their NDC. Ultimately, this is the goal of CAEP. This is why it's been set up. And so this is one of the things that we want to really encourage countries to think critically about. So with that, I wanted to just flag a couple of resources for you. If you go to our website, ndcpartnership.org/CAEP, you will find a resource page where we have information on the application form. We'll have the recordings from these webinars as well as the slides available. You can also reach out to us at caep@ndcpartnership.org if you have any questions at all. So with that, I wanted to open it up for questions from the participants. You can ask questions in two ways, either by typing them into the Q&A function or into the chat function that's found or within the information control panel on Zoom. So please go ahead. If you do have any questions, please type them in there, and I will be happy to answer them and take them. So I'm not seeing any questions just yet. I think we'll wait a couple minutes in case anyone is typing anything in there. But again, please use the Q&A or the chat function and just type your questions in there. Because we're in webinar mode, participants are in listen only. So there's a question on whether the activities from the first round will be carried over into the second round. And so the short answer is no. We will be treating these as two distinct rounds. And so we are inviting countries to submit completely new requests for support. And when we circulate these to partners, we'll be circulating that set of activities. That being said, from the first round of CAEP, there are quite a few activities that did not receive support, and we have kept track of these. We are circulating them to partners to see if they are interested in responding. We would invite implementing partners, particularly if you have your own resources available, to consider using those to respond to some of those activities through the first round. What we will do is through the second round, if we end up having TAF resources available at the end, after we've done the allocations for the round 2 activities, we'll look at if we're able to then apply those resources or some of those resources to some of the unsupported activities from round 1. So that's how those round 1 unsupported activities are being carried forward. So there's a question actually here on round 1, if there are deadlines for terms of reference submissions, about missing information for countries that you're meant to support, including where TAF resources are involved. So this is from an anonymous attendee, so I'm not actually sure who's raised this list, but if you could reach out to us at cap@ndcpartnership.org, we can follow up on those specific countries. But one thing to flag, and this is relevant for round 2, just in terms of how the timeline and the process works. Once we in round 1 completed the matching of implementing partners to countries, we circulated this support mapping to countries for their approval. And so that was circulated at the beginning of October. We have now heard back from most countries that they've approved the implementing partners that they would like to move forward with. But we are actually still waiting to hear from a number of countries. They're still going through their internal approval processes and have not been able to get back to us with the approval needed. And so that's the reason why partners would not have heard back in those cases. And so I see that's Julia from FAO. So we can follow up bilaterally to confirm exactly which countries we're still waiting to hear from, to ensure that you have at least heard from all countries where support has been approved. That's why there's been a delay in some countries. There's a question on whether implementing partners can highlight ongoing activities that match what is highlighted. And then a second question on what happens when a country does not prefer the partner for that activity. So on the first question, yes, and in fact we would encourage implementing partners to indicate where they have ongoing activities that are already supporting what the country is requesting. In some instances, this could just be because of a lack of coordination, where an activity might have been requested, but in fact support is already being provided for it. But other instances, and we saw this quite a bit in round 1, countries have requested support for activities even where implementing partners are already providing support, namely because the support that's being provided by the implementing partners doesn't go far enough, or it doesn't fully cover what it is that they're looking for, or sometimes isn't being implemented quick enough within the timelines to feed into the country's NDC update process. But either way, it is good for us to be aware of those ongoing activities taking place, so that we can flag those with the country, but also so that we can flag those with other implementing partners who might be providing support in the country so that they can make sure that they're coordinating efforts with you. When a country does not prefer to work with a partner, this is a right that countries have, and in fact, one of the criteria for support through CAEP is that countries need to approve it. And we have seen this happen in a few select instances. The country can deny, or they can reject the support that's being offered by an implementing partner. If TAF resources were involved, that would be the end of the process for us under CAEP. So countries do not have the option to pick and choose which partners they would like to work with. If they choose to reject a partner, that would simply mean that that activity that we had been offering them support would just go unsupported. So the country would be welcome to work with other implementing partners through other channels to pick it up, but we will not be going back to partners. We will not be going back to the submissions that we received to identify additional implementing partners to present to the country. In terms of experience from round one, there's a question on whether the activities are costed, and that can make the decision easier. So through round one, we requested countries to submit an indicative budget for the overall application. So broken down by objective 1 and objective 2. We also encouraged them to submit individual activities per budget. In practice, what ended up happening is most countries submitted an overall budget, but did not submit budgets per activity. And so this, as you point out, was challenging for decision making, including to understand the scope of some particular activities. Through round two, we've hoped to rectify this. So we've still requested countries to submit an overall budget for the activities. But given that there are now only 7 activities, or up to 7 activities that the countries can request, that budget will be much easier to interpret. So the hope is that those activities will kind of form kind of a package with one overall budget. And so that will give you a clear indication. In addition, as I mentioned, we've communicated to countries to try to keep that overall request to a maximum of $250,000. There's a question if countries that have already submitted a request in the first round and withdrawn afterwards can theoretically submit another request in the second round. So the answer is yes, but actually, just to clarify, no countries withdrew their requests through the first round. So we had 50 countries submit eligible requests through the first round, and all of them will move forward and receive support through round 2. One last question is whether countries can specify in their request a preferred partner. And so the answer is no. We haven't provided a space for countries to do this in the application. And the main reason is that in matching the support, in matching partners to countries, we will be looking at our eligibility criteria and the cost of the activities that partners are proposing in making those decisions. And so we will not be matching activities or partners to countries based on partner preferences. This is really a competitive process, and we're looking to engage as many of our institutional and associate members as possible through this process. So those are all of the questions that I see in the chat. Are there any other pending questions before we close? Okay, it doesn't look like it. So with that, just to say thank you to everyone. We're really looking forward to round 2 and to working with you through this process, similar to how we've done in round 1 with many of you. If you do have any questions, you can reach out directly to the CAEP account. It's cap@ndcpartnership.org. You can also reach out specifically to me, Amanda, at amanda.mckee@ndcpartnership.org. And we will get back to you. We can also look at setting up calls or discussions if you have more detailed questions that you want to go through. We want to ensure that you're comfortable with this process for round 2 and able to engage and support countries as best as possible. So thank you again, everyone, and have a lovely day.